From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media. A Neighbor's Choice. And welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your neighbor, David Gornoski, happy to be with you. Happy to learn and grow and fight for freedom and nonviolence, creativity, innovation, and that self-reliant spirit that allows us to grow together. Together, we'll do it neighbor to neighbor. We're not going to rely on stupid tribalism, groupthink, collectivism. None of that stuff has no place here. We want to grow with peace. We want to grow working together. We're not going to point fingers and blame games, but we will tell the truth when people in high places are abusing and hurting the vulnerable. That's what we're supposed to do on this earth. So we're always going to defend the truth and not pull any punches when it comes to that. But we're also going to point people back to grace and mercy. That's always the foundation of the personhood revolution that we're a part of 2,000 years later. And joining me now is the president of the Mises Institute. He joins us from Auburn, Alabama, Jeff Deist. How you doing, Jeff? I think maybe we're going to get Jeff on, or do we have an issue? Okay, I guess we're having an issue connecting. We're going to try to connect with him again. But in the meantime, one of the things that I've been concerned with is when are they going to stop changing the narrative on us? Every time they tell us, well, first we were going to lock down because we're trying to flatten the curve so we don't have any, shortages of hospital beds. We don't have a bottleneck in hospital beds and access to health, equipment like ventilators. And then that didn't pan out. And now it's turned into, okay, well, a lot of places are saying we're not going to open up, like LA's mayor, Los Angeles' mayor has said, we're not opening up until we get a cure. It's got to be patented, probably. He doesn't tell you that part, but he's got to make sure it's patented by the government, so as somebody's going to make some money or something. But of course, how much you want to bet that he's not going to have anything that's a cure that's not patented? If it's a natural thing, if it's a generic thing, that certainly won't be the thing that he'll tout as the cure. What he'll do is he'll have to wait conveniently for something that's patented. Meanwhile, again, they keep changing the narrative on us. First it was, we're only going to lock down until this thing can be flattened, and then we're going to allow people to come out. And then they've changed the story now to be, now we're just going to keep you in until we say, there was a debate with earlier this week where Senator Rand Paul got into a disagreement with Dr. Fauci about opening up schools. And of course, I don't really have the same enthusiasm to open up government schools. I think the longer we can keep our kids out of government schools, the better. I know this is hard for people who depend on the kind of daycare function of public schools because they have to work and they don't have anybody to visit their kids. But generally speaking, I think it's perhaps a good thing, to have a chance to change what you do for your education. This is the moment, right? And sometimes it takes a shocking, terrible trauma like this to disrupt the normal of sending our kids to prison-like government schools, which have big, giant fences and bullying like it's a prison yard, and vanilla, generic education that doesn't allow for the individual's spirit to develop and cultivate individuality. So I don't share the same zeal to return everybody back into government schools. I don't want people eating government cheese, and I don't want people going to government school. So, but nevertheless, there is this debate about herd immunity and this idea that, well, if we all wear a mask for the rest of our lives, we could just wear a mask and wear gloves and look like, ninjas or whatever, totally have this kind of sterile approach. Well, then one day, someone from on high with a nice, conveniently patented drug will swoop in and save us with the cure. but for the next foreseeable future, we will live in tyranny and we'll all be happy for that, right? That's a dumb narrative. It's called a mythology. They're trying to create a myth that obfuscates the violence and the disruption and the destruction and the bigotry that's really behind those kind of statements. There is nothing wrong with allowing human beings to voluntarily socially distance. That is a good thing if you have a new virus. It's a good thing that people who are adults, they know how to get 401ks, they know how to invest in the stock market, they know how to tie their shoes, they know how, some of them are electricians, some of them are plumbers, some of them can do home construction. Adults are smart people. Give them the chance to practice voluntary wisdom. It's not government's role to come in like mommy and daddy and say, we will control you forever. You know, we're not going to tell you the truth about food. In fact, we're going to subsidize junk food so that make that more cheaper for you to buy and get sick with. Or stupidly get you to eat cattle feed like big soy and big corn and big sugar. Remind me not to run for president in Iowa. But that's what they will push all the time. But nevertheless, they want to keep this moral posturing that somehow, well, it's all for your good. We want you to stay safe. And I'm sure a lot of the bureaucrats that tout this mimetic parroting line, they believe it. They don't know. They're just going along, right? But people who have wisdom, we have to be able to stand up and be the adults in the room and say, hey, this is enough. You're not going to keep hurting people. You're not going to keep arresting seniors and using force in such flippant, ridiculous ways. That's just not going to be the acceptable way. And so these ideas of forcing masks, if you want to wear a mask, that's fine. The idea of forcing people to wear masks is not a long-term viable solution. If this virus continues to come back, it could potentially come back over and over again until herd immunity is built up. And so if you don't allow herd immunity to be built up front, then every year, if there's an open time where people are out and about, those including seniors and immunocompromised folks, who, by the way, are probably immunocompromised even more so by the social distancing forced lockdowns because of being away from positive social interaction, being away from the sun, getting proper sunlight, being away from proper nutrition. They may be more immunocompromised when this thing's over, when these forced lockdowns lift. And so if they lift them and they were making everybody wear masks, then when the virus, if it comes back every season like flu does, what's going to happen? People who are immunocompromised are going to be more likely to get it than if younger, healthier people develop herd immunity first and make it less likely that those who are most vulnerable are not going to have fatal bouts with it. This is science. But you know, to say this, real rigorous epidemiologists and medical doctors have been deleted off of social media platforms by bigots and hateful-minded people who don't want to allow this kind of information to be debated. They don't want to, if they were in charge if Facebook and YouTube were in charge when Galileo said that the sun was at the center of the solar system, they would have deleted his channel, blocked him, they would have denied him access to a PayPal account, they would have deleted his ability to get a server to host his website. They would have dismissed him as a quack. They called him alt-right or something. They make up anything they can to disparage the man. And they would have done everything they could to destroy this man's career. They'd probably come up with some trumped-up charges, lawsuits, even federal, crimes, anything they can. Because it's like a bull, like a dumb, brainless bull humans become when they get locked up in groupthink. They just charge straight forward. I will destroy this person, like a mindless herd. And so that's what we can expect if we continue to look at our problems through the political lens. You vote for whoever you want. If you like pro wrestling, watch it. If you like politics, go ahead and watch that. Same thing. But don't take it seriously. For God's sake, don't take it seriously. For the love of all that's good and decent, don't take it seriously. Get to work I would say this. I'm going to put a caveat on what I said. It is serious to be ignorant of politics. But don't take this whole, who are we going to pick now to run this monstrosity? Don't take that part seriously. Take dismantling the monster seriously. Cutting government, shrinking it, using the jury power to render verdicts against unjust tyrannical laws. That you should take very seriously. Telling the truth about things that make for good health and nutrition, take that seriously. Telling the truth about fake green energy solutions for pollution versus real energy solutions that don't cost an arm and a leg and don't require government subsidies to investigate. Take that seriously. Keeping out of debt, that's a serious thing. Living within your means is a serious thing. But political drama, narcissists preening for things that they have no control over, that would be the domain of fantasy. That would be the domain of what we would call suspension of disbelief. That same thing that allows you to go into a movie theater and you just sit back and suspend your disbelief so that you participate in the drama. That's what politics is. And what are we doing on this program? We're turning the light on during your favorite film. That's a tough subject, right? A lot of folks say, I want to keep believing this film is real. I want to keep believing that all I got to do is vote harder and just sit on autopilot. Don't do any thinking. Just go along with slogans from TV ads. No. It's more exciting and fun than that. You got to get out and live life. Get out and create, think, love, and defend those who need defending. Defend the vulnerable and the weak. I'm David Gornoski. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice.
A lawsuit is a devastating process for families. It can be an emotional roller coaster ride. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that practices with this in mind. That law firm is Catania and Catania. We know and handle personal injury law for families with care. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania Catania will take care of the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't even realize they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to us. Catania and Catania only represent private individuals. We treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's our way of practicing law. It's our commitment to you. Remember, we don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning, over 28 years, and family first. Catania Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
The one thing that we've learned from an epidemic is that if we are healthy, we are far less likely to be susceptible to grave sickness. With that stated, stem cell activation is a big part of keeping ourselves healthy. By activating your own stem cells, you'll experience energy, better sleep, reduction in pain, and a support system that supports faster healing from wounds. LifeWave X39 patches are an easy, cost-affordable way to activate stem cells. Clinical studies demonstrate that LifeWave patches reset the genes in the body to a younger, healthier state. By wearing the daily patch, your body will activate the stem cells to give you benefits of a better way of living a healthy, productive life. Go to lifewave.com/B radio to see how you can elevate, activate, and regenerate your life with stem cell therapy. There's a special offer now with B Radio. The address again is lifewave.com/B radio. Live healthier and wiser with the X39 LifeWave patches at lifewave.com/B radio.
Hey, it's Bubba the Love Sponge. With all the coronavirus stuff going on, you've heard the CDC say wash your hands about a zillion times. You know, studies show that the average person touches their face 23 times an hour. Your nose, eyes, and mouth, that's called the T-zone. And the T-zone is the most important area to keep clean. And for over 12 years, there's this product called TheraWorks Protect. It's been used by millions of emergency room patients and medical clinics to support infection prevention. TheraWorks Protect is easy to use and it's safe to apply several times a day on your hands and around your nose and eyes eyes and mouth, better known again as the T-zone. Just apply a small amount into your hand and rub it in until it dries, and then apply another amount and rub it all over your T-zone. You know, finding hand sanitizer sometimes can be difficult, and now you can order TheraWorks Protect online. Just get it directly from them. Go to tzoneprotect.com and use the Bubba Kicker. When you use the Bubba /, you're going to get 20% off and free freight, and you're going to have it in a few days. Again, tzoneprotect.com /Bubba. Start protecting yourself and the ones that you love now.
Neighbor's Choice is back. I'm David Gornoski, your host, and I want to kind of set up a clip here that was from a recent episode of The View. It's got Rand Paul, the senator from Kentucky, engaging with Dr. Fauci in a recent hearing in the Senate, and we'll get some of their comments, and I'll comment along the way. Let's begin. It's all quiet on the Western Front here, but we're going to try to get that clip at some point. And it's a quote. It's a clip that is of The View, and it just kind of reiterates the standard line of thought, the narrow framework of thought that's allowed in mainstream media circles, where you're supposed to have this focus that is dominated by one frame of experts. There's a debate among experts, but we're not allowed to hear that, unfortunately. We're not allowed to hear that debate. We're only allowed to hear one perspective from that debate. And that's unacceptable, in my opinion. That's unacceptable in a country where we have so much debate, but yet so little tolerance for debate and disagreement. We are a society that was founded on free discourse. We're not a society that's founded on only one side of a debate is allowed to be heard. We can't continue to thrive in a society where only one perspective, sometimes of many perspectives, but only one is allowed to be heard as the official policy. That is a tyrannical, authoritarian, backwards kind of society. For so long, we have lived in a society where at least there was some debate allowed. But for a long time also, newspapers had an incestuous relationship with the powers that they were commenting on, both in big business and big government. And there was a time when there was only 3 television stations and only a few radio stations, and in terms of radio networks, a few newspapers, and they too had oftentimes an incestuous relationship with the people they were supposed to hold accountable. And when the internet came, it took a real knife to the heart of that kind of monopolistic media. So much so that the level of rapid knowledge expansion about how things really work in all kinds of fields of knowledge, whether it's finance or psychology, health, nutrition, energy, physics, biology, politics, economics, whatever it is, that the average person could learn a PhD level of knowledge from an actual legitimate source of knowledge by crowdsourcing information. Now, of course, there's also a lot of bad, dumb ideas that get picked up on the internet, but that's just natural in any type of free environment. And then all of a sudden you had to have a pushback, an attempt to try to roll the same shielded narrative framework of trying to mimic 3 TV stations by taking Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, these big platforms, and say we're going to herd it all in, and then we're only going to allow one perspective of these debates to be considered the appropriate perspective. We will have an official outsider crowd, and they can have their perspective, but from the official dominant narrative, whenever you search for something on YouTube, you're going to pull up one hive mind perspective on all the subjects that matter. And they're going to try to gaslight the public with the internet to say, yeah, you used to see free flow of information, but don't worry, we've got your internet under control now. One perspective of hotly debated subjects is now going to be the one that we curate for you at the top of search results on Google, top results on YouTube, top results on Facebook, Twitter. We're going to just curate a very, very narrow and frankly bigoted perspective of the world that doesn't allow for any dissent, doesn't allow for any debate. And when they do allow debate, it's usually some kind of token, generic, perspective that's still within the mainstream or the so-called establishment, old way of thinking for any subject that matters. And they've tried to curate this kind of sequester of knowledge, an imitation of the old way of how that knowledge was sequestered, again, with the 3 TV stations, the 3 newspapers, or whatever, 5 companies. They've tried to mimic that same environment with the internet, with these companies, these social media sites that work hand in hand with unelected global organizations like the WHO, and also elected folks that they have a shared groupthink with. But that's not something that we're going to let hinder us. We still have enough freedom on the internet to be able to create alternative channels of communication. We still have enough freedom in television with the rise of things like Pluto TV that has allowed, which I believe that will probably be the future of television. I was saying that years ago when it was just coming out, and it seems to be growing, although it's been purchased by one of the old media companies, so I don't know how that would change and factor into its tolerance for freedom in the long run. But generally speaking, that's a platform that has great promise to me as a place where maybe ideas can be shared and debated without someone tipping the scale in a very creepy and dishonest way. So Pluto TV looks like a promising venue to replace traditional gated television narratives. But also, I think there's going to be a long-term place for other traditional media, local television channels, and local radio stations, and new internet sites, offering products that hopefully can make the current milieu of options, which is totally, again, trying to curate only one perspective of any debate as the only cool opinion to hold, to try to shame people into feeling not cool or not smart or not intelligent if they disagree with that one perspective. That again, if these folks were running things in media discourse when Galileo came about, they'd have that guy locked up faster than the Catholic Church would have. They would have locked that guy up as soon as he said, hello, my name is, and he's gone. Site channels deleted. So we can't have this kind of bozo nonsense, this kind of bigotry masquerading as, masquerading as a free platform. We can't have this kind of stuff bully us into closing our minds and closing our mouths and closing our hopes. The world is full of hope. The world is full of opportunity for progress. But in order to do that, it's going to take folks like you and I reclaiming that foundation of freedom, reclaiming that foundation of free speech and discourse, and making sure we pass it on to those who come after us, long after us, our great-great-grandchildren as well. I'm David Gornoski. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. When we continue, we're going to have our own Galileo, our own in-house science genius, our chief science advisor, our physicist friend, Dr. Yu returns to the program when we come back for our Science and You edition of A Neighbor's Choice.
A lawsuit is a devastating process for families. It can be an emotional roller coaster ride. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that practices with this in mind. That law firm is Catania and Catania. We know and handle personal injury law for families with care. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania and Catania will take care of the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't even realize they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to us. Catania and Catania only represent private individuals. We treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's our way of practicing law. It's our commitment to you. Remember, we don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning, over 28 years, and family first. Catania Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Man, how can you afford gas for that big SUV?
I pay less for gas than everyone else. I got the free Get Upside Gas app and get up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time I buy gas.
Hold on. You're getting up to 25 cents off a gallon with the free Get Upside Gas app while I'm paying full price?
You know it. People earned over $1 million last year. You just got to take a picture of your gas receipt and bam, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back.
You don't have to tell me twice. I'm downloading the free Get Upside Gas app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code TRUCK for a 20-cent a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 45 cents a gallon on your next tank. Just download the free Get Upside app at the App Store or Google Play and use promo code TRUCK. Save money on gas on every fill-up. Download the free Get Upside app and use promo code TRUCK. That's TRUCK.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gornoski, and we're doing our Science and You edition of the program. Let's see, do we have our chief science advisor with us, Dr. Yu? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Well, great.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Man, you sound more fired up than ever. Every time I talk to you, you go reverse aging, huh?
Wow, it's a great pleasure on your show.
Well, you sound like you're getting younger and younger. Is that Z-Pack that you take? Is that the secret?
That play a part, Yes.
You said also that when you know the truth, it also makes you feel younger and more alive, right?
Oh, that's true. The happiness when you find something truly to you, the happiness is a peace. Is no longer care about your own life. Basically, you feel like being melted in the universe, becomes the one. Yeah, that kind of peacefulness is incredible.
Well, let's get to some of the science news that's in the news, because I know a lot of people love hearing from you. We get a lot of people suggesting stories that they think you might like, and always find great feedback from some of our loyal listeners online and some of the ones in radio. And we want to start first with this story about salmon. Now, I love salmon. But this is a story in ScienceAlert.com that salmon respond to Earth's magnetic field, and we might finally know how. What do you make of this story? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, okay. This study basically says salmon can respond to magnetic field. Based on the salmon behavior in the ocean, they said the salmon can always find back where they hatch, even though they're traveling through, thousands of miles inside of the ocean. So that's one thing. Another thing, they did an experiment. They said that if they have a local magnetic pulse to salmon, suddenly salmon behavior will be different than inside of the ocean. So that's one. And another thing is they said if you put a salmon in a fresh water, say fresh water is not like a salted ocean water, salmon will behave differently. So basically so they think about the salmon response to Earth's magnetic field, as we already know. However, it also responds to local magnetic field. So they basically thinking about the salmon responds to two different fields, the local and with the global Earth magnetic field with a different mechanism. That's the discovery the paper says. But in my opinion, salmon, any biological life, even they found out in the bacteria or in humans, in all birds, bats, and fish, they always find out this biological being responds to magnetic field. The reason I believe because every single particle made by so-called atom and electrons, they all made by magnetic particles. So basically, all biological beings are made by magnetic particles. Of course, magnetic particles oriented based on the magnetic field, so of course they can sense the Earth's magnetic field. So that's nothing surprise to me. But to explain why it behaves differently in ocean versus in fresh water, ocean water has a salt, typically has a salt in it. So that means when Earth's magnetic field exists, it can polarize ocean magnetic field, ocean water field. So that's why when salmon or other fishes are traveling in the ocean, it basically guided, it has a magnetic field lines, it can sense magnetic field. So that's where their direction comes from. So in the ocean water. In the fresh water has less salt, so the magnetic polarization of the water, fresh water, is less than ocean water. So that's why I'm not surprised. In the ocean water, salmon can find the direction whenever thousands of miles away where they came from. In the fresh water, they could not find it significantly. Another thing about that, with the local magnetic field, if a local magnetic field which is much stronger than Earth's magnetic field, so that's why with the local magnetic field, you will see the fish were misguided by local magnetic field instead of responding to the Earth's global magnetic field. So I would expect they behave differently because every single cell and have the magnetic field. So that's why it will be impacted by the stronger magnetic field. That's my understanding.
Interesting. So this gives us some more support for what you have been exploring, which is that in every piece of tissue and all particles in the universe have a magnetic function, have a magnetic property, both dipoles, meaning positive and negative poles. That includes salmon too. Each one of their atoms are made up of positive and negative poles too, right?
Yes. Oh, you just remind me a very important fact. You know, human sense, touching sense. Whenever you touch any part of your of your body, you will instantly can sense the signals, right? Can sense some place being touched. That's due to magnetic motion too, magnetic field motion too. So human sense, the touching sense, is due to magnetic sense. So whenever you touch any place, as long as it's not dry, it's not dyed tissue, it still has a water, is not a human, so it still have a magnetic property. So that's why whenever when you touch it, you change the local cell orientation. You also change the magnetic field of that part. What happens to the rest of the body? The rest of the body instantly adjusts their orientation, one by one, the cell by cell, changing the magnetic field direction because of the input, because of the changing orientation in your body at the place you're touching. That signal can sense the entire body, not just your brain. Wow. And that's exactly due to magnetic field. Due to every single cell is made by magnetic particles, so it's a magnet.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting way to think about sense. So, if someone touches you, all the cells in the body are going to respond and rotate in their polar alignment. Yes, is that what you're saying?
Direction. Yes. Whenever they change direction, create a motion, right? Vibration, right? So the chain reaction, that's where the signal you received in your brain. That's how the brain sends that signal. Oh, I've been touched. But I'm thinking about it not just your brain sense. Actually, your single body, your body can sense that one too, because every single cell has magnetic field, and will be adjusted just because one place displays or changing orientation, display differently. Every single body has to adjust.
Yeah, haven't we covered in the past that the heart magnetic field is larger than the brain's magnetic field, right?
Oh yes, this is the part. There's many studies that find out that the magnetic field not just from brain. Of course, the brain wave is a magnetic wave. However, they said the strongest wave is from your heart. You see, we thought the heart has no consciousness, right? But we find out since we said the heart has the strongest magnetic field. So when your heart in motion, when you speak from your heart resonant in motion, that's where you can impact audience the most. So now I find that, wow, one measurement says heart has a 5,000 times stronger magnetic field than brain field. So I thought that might be the reason why you impact people more with heart motion instead of just brain motion. Brain motion is just a thought, but use heart. Speaking of heart, that vibration creates a huge magnetic force and can impact the general public much stronger.
That's very interesting because a lot of people say they feel something in their gut or their intuition sometimes signals things that bypass the left brain hemisphere of their brain, which is telling them misinformation sometimes, that their intuition overrides what their logical side of their brain is telling them, right?
Oh, are you saying the left brain, thinking is through the heart?
Oh, no, the right brain, I would say, yeah. The left brain would be...
The right, no. Okay. Right brain is... Oh, right brain, yes, okay.
Yeah, right, because the right brain controls things on the left side of the body, like left hand motion, right?
Yes,
so
right.
The heart is on the left side of the body, so that means that if you're feeling with your heart, if your heart's maybe resonating with your right hemisphere, that's when you get that intuitive truth, that you know something's true, that bypasses the left hemisphere, which is more about sorting and categorizing things as opposed to connecting the truth across a wider perspective, you know?
That makes perfect sense, because the right brain controls the left side, which we consider right brain is what is emotional. Is more emotional instead of left brain analytical. So the emotional part of the right brain goes through the heart. So that's why, heart emotion. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And that tells, because they go through the heart, and the heart motion creates a giant magnetic wave, which would be received by the audience much stronger than use left brain, that's analytical brain, which is much calmer, a smaller wave, and so that's why I have less impact than right brain. That makes sense. I learned something.
Yeah, that's interesting how, but the right brain is actually not, it's disparaged as emotional, but it actually is more systems thinking, has the ability to connect patterns, right? Connect disparate bodies of knowledge and find truth in a bigger frame, so much of our knowledge today is based on isolation. If you want to solve heart disease, you study the heart only, but you don't look about, what's in the body? What are you eating? Are you getting sunlight? Are you getting proper nutrition? They don't look at things because they're taught to have a left brain focus. If I'm looking at heart disease, I only look at heart primarily and mechanical functions of the heart, and I try to mask symptoms with drugs, as opposed to when you have a right brain hemisphere, you look at holistic systems, you look at things like energy, which is metabolism, you look at all those things in harmony, and you find the problem that's at the core of the whole thing. That's why people like Dr. Chris Palmer from Harvard are finding that they can heal depression and schizophrenia and bipolar disorder with their patients in psychiatric care using a holistic approach like eating ketosis, which is allowing them to heal the body of all the problems, which also heals the mind of the psychiatric problems. So just shows you that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You see, one analogy for people to understand the difference between right brain and the left brain, the right brain is like a GPU, graphic processing unit, just like a computer. So that's to do a parallel processing. So you said holistic, systematic thinking. Basically, this is parallel processing all the different parts together. Instead of a left brain, which is analytical, it is like a CPU. So computer CPU, that to do calculation is instead of parallel, this is in series. Logical computation is in series. So that's why they're processing differently and give you information differently. One is give you entire graphic, the entire system. Another one is based logically one by one. I think that makes sense to your theory just described.
That's very interesting. We'll continue with Dr. Yu as part of our Science and You segment today. When we return, we'll look at evidence that Earth's inner core is rotating. There's new clues to the planet's magnetic field generator. That's a headline from Science Tech Daily. We're going to look at that when we continue live on A Neighbor's Choice.
A lawsuit is a devastating process for families. It can be an emotional roller coaster ride. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that practices with this in mind. That law firm is Catania and Catania. We know and handle personal injury law for families with care. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania Catania will take care of the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't even realize they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to us. Catania and Catania only represent private individuals. We treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's our way of practicing law. It's our commitment to you. Remember, we don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning, over 28 years, and family first. Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Have you hired a business that didn't deliver the results you were looking for? Are you fed up with misleading sales pitches or just not getting the customer service you want? Check out Harbor Bluff's Living Magazine and Network the next time you need to hire either a lawyer, realtor, construction crew, or even a personal trainer. Harbor Bluff's Living Magazine and Network will help you find the right business for all your needs. And you'll work with people that truly care about you as well as giving back to the community. So for the right hire, visit HarborBluffsLiving.com.
And now, Easy Lift Movers is on the air, reminding all Americans to show support to the brave men and women of our U.S. military. Their bravery and tireless efforts should never go unnoticed. This salute is brought to you by Easy Lift Movers, serving the community with quality and pride. Call the pros today, 813-505-8474. That's 813-505-8474. Also, all troops and veterans will receive a 10% discount. That's Easy Lift Movers, proudly saluting our troops and veterans. They are professionals who care.
Coronavirus is threatening the entire world. Could you protect you and your family? Even getting tested can cost you up to $3,200 out of pocket. Would you be able to afford that for you and your family? Well, free Obamacare will cover and protect today. New insurance may cost you nothing. Zero premium plans are available. If you've lost your job, you must call 877-652-0244 or text VIRUS to 919191 or log on to freeobamacare.com. Call us today. We'll get you enrolled, get you qualified coverage to protect you from not only this outbreak, but day in and day out sickness and illness. Our plans cover visits, testing, emergency and urgently needed care, medications, and more. Now more than ever, you need to act now and call now. No long lines, and we can get you coverage today. That's 877-652-0244 or text VIRUS to 919191. That's 877-652-0244.
Science and You is back. I'm David Gornoski, and we're here with our Chief Science Advisor, physicist Dr. Yu. And I want to dive into some more news in the world of science because you're always, your prediction of your unified theory of physics and has been so helpful in having our program be able to map out predictions in so many different fields that it's just amazing, and I'm so glad that we've been able to chronicle that journey together. But here's another interesting story here about the Earth's inner core. There's new clues, according to Science Tech Daily, that the Earth's inner core is rotating. So, Dr. Yu, what do you think of this?
Well, this is, to me, it's nothing new theoretically, but it is a great discovery, evidence, empirically, experimentally. So why I said, of course we know Earth's inner core should rotate. Why is that? Based on Newton's law, okay, that's called the conservation of angular momentum. Whenever something's rotating, in the free space rotating, in order to keep it in balance, so if internal have a water, have something, have a liquid, of course it will rotate, but rotate at different rate. And for the Earth part, it has a Earth crust, and then Earth's inner core that's solid, and also called the outer core. Outer core is liquid. So we know Earth is rotating. Of course, the rotating rate will be different than internal liquid rotating core different, and also the hard core called the inner solid core. Of course, once you're rotating, so everything will be rotated relatively differently, and so that's why they are rotating. However, However, this discovery, they talking about it. They said, okay, I'm not just say theoretically it's rotate. However, I can measure it, the rate of rotation. Okay, so the reason they said measure it based on the earthquake data. Whenever you have an earthquake, say on the surface, on the crust of the surface. However, earthquake generates sound. That sound goes through the center of the earth, and it will bounce off. First, when bounce off the liquid core on the surface of a liquid core, so you have a reflection. Whenever you're shining light into the water, you will have you will see a reflection. Some light bounce off the water surface. So that's called a reflection light. They said that based on the reflection light, just bounce off so quick, it's hardly to tell, you know, the surface, the core is in motion. However, they said, what if you measure called the refraction of the sound? The refraction part is the light you're shining on the surface of water, not being bounced off, go inside into the water. So that's the light called the refraction light. For the sound, it's the same thing called a refraction sound. Go inside of the liquid core and then bounce off the solid core and come out on the other side of the earth. So that's called a refraction wave. They measure the refraction wave. They find every different earthquake, seismic motion. You create a different time. You have a time difference. So they say, oh, that difference probably due to bounce off the inner solid core at a different spot. So they say, oh yeah, so that difference can tell us inner core is rotating. So that's what this study tell us. Say we can measure, not just predict it's rotating, and we can measure the rotating rate. So it is very important. But I want to emphasize another point of view why Earth's inner core has to rotate. That's the same thing as the solar system, is the entire solar system rotating. Whenever you have a solar system or have Earth rotating, in physics, you need three components. One, you have to have a magnetic field. To have a magnetic field, we know Earth and the solar sun has a magnetic field. Number two, you have to have an electrical current. You have electrical current. And number three, you have to have a conducting material. So now, see, in this Earth, we know Earth has a north-south field, so we know Earth is a magnet, have a magnet. Now, in order we see Earth is rotating second necessary condition, you have to have an electric current. Where comes the electric current? Because the liquid inner core. The core has an outer core and an inner core. So the outer core is a liquid core. So liquid core rotating, when you have a liquid core rotating relative to the inner core, what happens? Create electricity. So moving magnetic field. So that's created electricity. So we know the core, the liquid outer core has to rotate. Of course, the inner core has to have a relatively rotate opposite. Basically, it's opposite to the liquid outer core. So that rotation creates electricity. That electricity interacts with the global Earth magnetic field, so that's basically inner solid core. That's highly magnetized magnet because of the Earth's north and south field. So that interaction between outer core rotating around the inner core, that interaction, the magnetic field versus the electrical magnetic field. So that's called the magnetic rotation, causes the rotation. So it happens in the sun, happens in the galaxy, happens in the Earth. So that's why it's not surprising me it's rotating. But this paper says I can measure the rate of rotation. So that's significant.
So has this been a long-held belief in traditional conventional science that the core of the Earth rotates too separately?
Oh, it is a long belief it's a rotation, yes, based on the conservation angular momentum. If you have three different, say, a hard shell with a liquid inside. You rotate the hard. Of course, you know liquid is rotating. When liquid is rotating, inside of a liquid has a hard core, solid core. You know it will rotate. So that belief is nothing new. There's nothing new. But what I said, any single rotation in the sun and in the earth, it has to have a magnetic field and has to have electricity and has to conducting material. In that three combination, you have to rotate. That's not common news. That's something from the Yuan theory.
And Dr. Yu, another little note here that's maybe of great promise, hopefully. You're a physicist, not a physician, but because you understand the atom, you said very early on that azithromycin would be a key thing to explore. And you predicted it would be a key thing to explore for even this new virus, coronavirus. And here's a headline from today. The National Institute of Health, under the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, that's Dr. Fauci's group, they're about to start a clinical trial with approximately 2,000 adults using hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin. So, once again, if you listen to A Neighbor's Choice, you'll be quite ahead of the curve. Right, Dr. Yu?
Yes, we predicted it before it happened.
All right, we'll continue to talk to you next week on Science and You, Dr. Yu. Thanks for joining us. And tomorrow, we'll be having more news and analysis live on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gornoski. Godspeed.
All right, let's take this.